I've stopped this lady from jumping out and killing herself in Singapore. You've got to look after the mental health of your people in Singapore. Even though money is the god over here, you've got to look after your people or you can't make money. He's asleep in one room, I'm on the couch with my Glock, and then 6 guys come through the door. And so I've gone from asleep to awake and lining everyone up looking for weapons. None of these guys have weapons. And so they all go racing down the stairs and I didn't have to shoot anyone. A lot of people do suicide by cop. He survived and he came back. I managed to get my hands on him, threw him in a motel for 2 days, and we sat down and we just talked the whole thing out. Get a phone call from one of the boys and he's just hung himself. So I'm straight down to the house. By the time I got there, we have all these big black gearboxes. And so I saw them about to throw that on the truck. I spoke to his wife and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to hold on to this until your son's 16. Then I'll give it to your son. If your son wants to throw it out after that, he can throw it out, but no one's touching this stuff.
The first time I got introduced to Maori culture through movies were Once Were Warriors.
It was the first movie to come out and really show what domestic violence looked like in one demographic. No one had seen a woman get violently assaulted to that degree, and then get raped afterwards. It was so hideously powerful and accurate that it woke everyone up to what was going on. We're in an identity crisis at the moment. There's always a traumatic part first that wakes you up, that forces you to have to look at what you're looking at. When you get through the crisis, your whole identity and your whole value has now shifted. It's impossible for someone to go through something traumatic and not have that alter something in some way.
Dion, good morning. How are you, brother?
So good to see you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Mate, it's a pleasure, and I'm really grateful. You know, I was trying to find out when you and I got connected, and it was, we'll go back into this later, but it was basically during COVID and mental health awareness, and you put out some posts that really struck a chord with me and some of my friends. So I want to start off by saying thank you for that. I'm very grateful for that because a lot of the content you put out is really meaningful.
Oh, you're very welcome, and man, it's needed in Asia right now, isn't it?
You know it, brother. Well, globally, right? But certainly, you know, in places like Singapore, as you know, it's a melting pot. There's a lot of pressure. And as the father of 3 kids and an 18-year-old son in particular, you worry about these things. You have to be, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, my boy is 13 and my daughter's 15, so they can't go anywhere without running into my stuff now online, which is great.
Yeah, it's great. Well, listen, for the few people that may not know you, can you just give a quick intro as to who you are? Because your background is so colorful, and we'll unpack that today, bro.
Oh, absolutely. Well, if you don't know me, so Tihei Mauriora, ko Rupehu te Maunga, ko Hautapu te Awa, ko Ngāti tu Mātaunga te Iwi, Talofa Lava, or Longo, or Dion Jensen. So my name is Dion Jensen. My father is a 6'6" Samoan called Tamawhanga Jensen. And my mother is a 5'0" white-looking lady called Marilyn Jensen. And my dad was in the army and posted to Singapore. So I was actually born in Changi in 1974. And I have a younger sister, Amanda, who's also has a colourful background. And so, yeah, started off in Singapore as an army brat, growing up in the New Zealand army under the culture of Te Ao Maori, which is the local culture of New Zealand.
Yeah.
Even though we're Samoan and we're English Danish. And then I went and joined the army myself, 6-month operational tour in Bosnia, became a veteran. Then I joined the police force. And as a bullied kid, nothing better than being a police officer coming from the army, because all the scary stuff's actually a lot of fun. And then all the real dark and scary stuff, you can actually connect and help people out. That's where my love of youth and youth problems came from, because so many of the youth I was dealing with, they just had a terrible start to life, Paul.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the only differentiating factor, was just a horrible start to life. And then wrapping support around them stopped at a certain level in a blue uniform, where you're the guy who's supposed to be arresting kids for stealing cough medicine because their mum's sick. Just can't do it.
Crazy.
And then close protection popped up. So I disappeared to Middle East 2004, actually protecting the British Consul General and diplomatic protection over there.
Wow.
But as you can imagine, back then, everyone's trying to kill you every day. And I lost a really close mate 18 years ago this year, which sent me down into my PTSD spiral. I found my way out. I wrote the world's first good news book about PTSD, and thought I'd come out and share the world on how that solution works, and got slammed down pretty hard because you didn't have any qualifications to be saying these things. Your lived experience didn't have the same amount of credibility. So we carried on as the guys that were contracted to do all the dark, scary stuff. And then I found myself in corporate. I keep getting headhunted into leadership and management roles because we were just really good at leading people in stressful situations. So back then, stress was the thing, and pressure, and we'd come from trauma, which is the end result of all of that, right? And then I ended up in Singapore as the regional operations manager for Asia Pacific, and running every Asian country out of Singapore. And through that journey, I became a speaker, did well as a speaker, and my speaking journey started in Singapore. So a massive shout out to APSS, specifically to Frederick Harron and the crew there, but also out to the community crew that have just done amazing. Japuru, Raul Shah, Hazreep, all those guys pulled me into the community speaking side for ideas and inspiration. So we're doing, I'm corporate on one side in the job. I'm learning how to become a speaker with all these professional speakers. These guys own islands in Sweden, so they're pretty good at what they do. And then the community speakers who then blew up on YouTube, like Japuru is a massive influencer now on YouTube. He's just a good human being. And then probably one of the highlights before I left Singapore was me as a New Zealander doing a haka in the Gujarati community of Malaysia, who was
Wow.
Gandhi's people, So to be in amongst Gandhi's people and a picture of me next to Gandhi on my whole journey of rebuilding myself after trauma was just mind-blowing. But then I found out that, just speaking doesn't have the impact to change things globally. So I came back to New Zealand during COVID, and during COVID, there was no other leadership speakers out there. So I developed a crisis leadership modality, went to number one in the world during COVID on LinkedIn, Paul. It's quite interesting.
Amazing.
And we were just running this off a camera. We all had COVID here, remember? Because you couldn't go and get a haircut. So we had COVID here. It was just like one lamp in the lounge and one phone camera. And the first podcast that I did was for the New Zealand Chamber of Commerce in Singapore.
Really? Wow.
Yes, yeah. So here I am in the lounge. There's like one lamp on me, afro here, talking to a phone and talking people through crisis leadership. And so crisis leadership blew up, but back then the technology to run sales funnels and on, it wasn't quite there.
Yeah.
And then so now that it is, I came back out. I started the Line Academy, basically empowering people all over the world. We started with soldiers, sailors, airmen, military, law enforcement, emergency services. Then the women came, so we started Protecting Women Global. So we have 3 organizations now, the Line Academy, Protecting Women Global, and Success for Soldiers. And now I've just run the Suicide Solution Summit globally, because no other modality can say they have solutions. Well, we can. So there's a whole map. There's all these people that come through and out the other side of suicide. So now I'm coming back out, speaking and coaching again, but now with a full online academy as a safety net for my clients, which is a two-edged sword, which I'm sure you'll get into at some stage.
Yeah, I bet. Well, the thing is, I mean, we've got so much to unpack today. So the key thing for me is I want to talk about your journey and how you've transitioned into everything. And then I do want to obviously touch upon the mental welfare side. But before we get started, just on a lighter note, when we first started talking, the first time I got introduced to Maori culture through movies were Once Were Warriors.
Yep.
And again, I've got to do this because I just fell in love with this movie. This movie only came out in a few cinemas in the UK, and I'd seen the trailer, and the trailer was so powerful. I thought I went all the way to central London, and I spent quite a bit of money to watch a movie in central London because normally it's like 3 times the premium.
Yeah.
And Tamora Morrison, his character, take away his character, his acting is just amazing, and I still think it's one of the most visceral movies you'll ever see in the fight scene. But I just want to do a quote from it because, and tell me how bad my accent is. He goes up to a guy in the bar who's just knocked the granny out of a bunch of guys, and the guys put some money into a jukebox to play music over, the lady that's singing live. And Tamora Morrison, Jake the Musk, goes up to the guy and he goes, "Gee, bro, where'd you get your muscles from? You don't leg, am I right?" And after he knocks the granny out of him, he goes back to the bar and he says to his mates, he goes, "Too much weights, not enough speed work, useless prick." And
That's it.
It's it, right? I just fell in love with it. But
That's it.
what was so tell me about your connection with that movie and what did you take on it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously the content's flipping so accurate and hideous, right? It was the first movie to come out and really show what domestic violence looked like in one demographic. Now, I'm an ex-cop, all right? So I've seen that stuff.
Yeah.
You grow up in an army family and army stuff and all the rest of it. A lot of people are coming from that demographic as well. But the live context to that movie was we were in the army at the time when the infantry were all fighters. We're all under Maori culture. And there's about 8 of us that went to watch that when it first came out. And so back then we would go right down to the front of the picture theater and we would just lay on the floor. in front of the front row. So we'd book out the front row and we'd lay on the floor watching the movie. And so the movie started, and we've all seen people like that. We got people like that in the army, but it came to that horrible bit of cooking your own eggs, where Jake the Muss violently beats his wife. Just before he hit her, she's starting to throw the eggs on the ground.
Yeah.
And behind us was a bunch of students from Massey that were watching it. And they were getting a little bit lippy, students having fun at the movies. And then the moment she threw the eggs on the ground, she goes, "Cook your own eggs, Jake." One of the students went, "Oh, don't take that crap from her," not knowing what
was about to happen. Yeah.
The next scene is Beth getting absolutely dealt to. And I sat up and I turned around, I looked at these students, and they were like,
yeah,
because no one had seen that on screen before. No one had seen a woman get violently assaulted to that degree, and then get raped afterwards, which was what the cutaway scene was, to the dogs ripping into the rubbish, right?
Yeah. Oh,
and
so powerful.
Such a metaphor. So it was so hideously powerful and accurate that it woke everyone up to what was going on.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just Maori. I mean, domestic violence happens in the rich classes as well, and as I know as a cop. And so the creator of that, Ihimera, he thought he'd done Maori an absolute injustice with that movie. Like, it had to be made, because the reported domestic violence went through the roof after that, because no one felt alone and isolated. It was such a powerful movie.
Yeah.
But then again, that was the context for Maori now. They're all women beaters and stuff.
Yeah.
And so there was that real time period where everyone wanted to be Jake the Muss to a certain point, and then people are figuring, hang on a second, dude. This guy created an unsafe environment, beat the crap out of his wife, and raped her to the point where Uncle Bully goes and rapes his daughter. Like, how was there anything positive in this at all? All right. So we had to go through all of that to get to what becomes of The Broken Hearted, which is the second piece, which I saw as a more powerful movie. And so what becomes of The Broken Hearted has some key concepts that you won't understand unless you're from New Zealand. Is first and foremost, in the first movie, Jake's the man.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's just beating the granny out of that other dude. When he goes back to the bar, there's two monster bouncers there now, covered in rings, like, mate, you can't come in. Jake's not even messing with those fellas.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show, like, Jake's been pulled down a peg. In the actual book, he actually plays rugby and gets wasted playing rugby, keeps trying to have fights all the time, just keeps getting knocked over, because being able to physically fight and play rugby is different, right?
Yeah.
But the two pig hunters that come and pick his car up when he's trying to change the tire, two cops. They're actually two police officers in real life.
Oh,
they're
wow.
brothers.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, so they're actual brothers. And then the whole pig hunting side of things, so many of our people just get what they need when they're out there in the bush and doing things collectively, which we know from the military. But then we go back to that original conversation about the kids that I dealt with. It's the environment that shapes you. And so to watch them go through that transition, massive courage. There's just massive courage for a guy from that background in the second movie that he hates gangs.
Yeah.
Because back then, you should be able to stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And obviously dealing with gangs all the time as police officer and family and everything I do now, I've probably got a front row seat across more lanes than most people.
Yeah.
Go to Marina Bay Sands and have drinks with certain people. And I can be at the gang pad having a cup of tea with a prezi as a cop and have those 2 points of context.
Well, what's interesting, brother, because New Zealand is a favorite destination for so many. And it's because it's, arguably the most beautiful country in the world. But there's that underbed there as well that people don't know about. And that, that was my first, awareness of, I was young, with New Zealand. But I tell you, it was so interesting. And you're right, the sequel is very moving, right? And it's a story about fathers and sons. And there's a great quote that I heard years ago, and it kind of made sense to me, because I had a wonderful relationship with my dad, and then things changed when I was 14. And the saying goes, when you're younger, you idolize your father. And quite often, as you get older, you demonize them. And unfortunately, more often than not, when they die, you humanize them, right?
Yeah.
And as a dad, I kind of don't want all of that. I don't want the demonization part, but there is a love-hate thing. And especially men of our parents' generation, they grew up in a very different environment. So what we received would have been different from what they received. So it's an interesting journey, right?
Oh, 100%. And that was the beauty of growing up within the military. within the military, it was always team before self. So within the military, you're an extended family, and that was very interesting to us as kids, especially in Asia. You got to understand, if you've never been to a makan stall at 10 o'clock at night in Farrer Park,
Yeah.
the different types of sights and smells and people and language and energy is so diverse.
Yeah.
I still call Singapore the last melting pot of racial harmony,
Yeah.
because you can sit down at a makan store with every religion, every
Yeah.
race, every
Yeah.
political background, still have a differing conversation, eating different food, saying different prayers to different gods, and still get on,
You know
you
it.
know?
It is,
And
it is,
so,
and it is funny because you'll see the Chinese people eating Malay food, the Malay
yeah,
people eating Indian food, and it's just rojak as they call it, right?
yeah, yeah. And so in the military, we were an and whānau. So whānau means family in Maori. So we're hey, we've got Samoan and English and Maori and Chinese and Indian. It wasn't or. You didn't
Yeah,
have to pick one.
yeah,
So when we came back from Singapore to New Zealand, and everything was closed at 5 o'clock, we're like, what do you do now? Nothing really starts in Singapore till 10 o'clock at night,
yeah,
or 8
yeah,
o'clock at night if you got family. But then you were seeing the same types of people, and the history of our country, which has really come into the fore now, is we're invaded, and signing a treaty that everyone's mucking around with so people can steal land. Our soldiers were going to war to fight for the crown.
yeah,
Meanwhile, the crown was giving their land away to Aussie and other mercenaries that were coming across to fight against other tribes, and they're coming back from the war and all their land's gone. So we do have a very dark history as well that's now trying to sort itself out. So we're in an identity crisis at the moment, which is one of my modalities, which is in transition, is the VIP of mental health, which we'll get to. So there's always a traumatic part first that wakes you up,
yeah,
right? That forces you to have to look at what you're looking at. And the predominant emotion in that is fear. And if you have the correct relationship with fear, man, it's such a beautiful thing. But fear as an acronym, focus is the F. So you have to hit a crisis point. Until your wife threatens to walk out with your kids, you don't start paying attention to your marriage.
spot on.
Until the doctor says you're gonna have a heart attack in the next 6 months and die unless you sort out your eating, people don't pay attention. And we like to think we'd go for desire before, but we're not wired that way, as you know. So pain and fear there's always a crisis part, right?
Yeah,
And then when you get through the crisis, your whole identity and your whole value has now shifted, because you're no longer the same person. Like, it's
yeah,
impossible for someone to go through something traumatic and not have that alter something in some way.
yeah,
The difference with the military is the training is designed to alter it immediately. Pull your brain out, turn it 180 degrees, give the ability to turn off every emotion, predominantly fear, and then turn on controlled aggression at any moment in time, and then shut down emotion to run the numbers. Then you just run the numbers, and it's just math. And then you turn the emotions back on and you carry on. But if that switch gets broken, which is my other definition for PTSD, you can't turn those emotions back on, or
mm,
they start popping up without you having control of them.
yeah,
And that's the main issue. And then when you get into transition, you now have to redesign your identity. You have to redesign your purpose, because now it's all about value. And most of the suicides now that I deal with, it's not about the trauma, it's
mm,
about the value now. And because we're in this massive value shift in the world, depending on your identity, everyone's trying to champion an identity to increase their value. We had the whole pronoun narrative, and I'm
yeah,
not picking any sides here. I'm just saying the pronoun narrative was an identity narrative. All the
100%.
conflict that we have around the world at the moment is an identity narrative and value. So the VIP triangle that I created, the value to identity link, that's the battleground, not the purpose, not
Yeah,
what we are here to do. Now, the purpose is getting redesigned right now without us watching with AI.
yeah,
The AI is now redefining all of our purposes, because where do we spend 80% of our life, Paul?
yeah. On
At
the
work.
yeah, and then
At
doing all
work.
this nonsense. Yeah,
And then what industry is shifting the fastest? What's causing that? It's AI
big
combined with
time.
all the conflict that's going on over here. So
Yeah,
I see very clearly what's happening in the world, and have the ability to influence that for our people. And then after you get through designing your identity, now you have to come across, now you have to evolve. And if you
yeah.
don't evolve, you only get left behind.
You're gone. You're out of here. Well, look, let's just unpack this. So, growing up as an army brat, did you feel pressure to follow in your father's footsteps?
Nah, there's no pressure in that at all. It was just beautiful. Like we're
I
down
love it.
the fern leaf every day after school swimming. we're eating banjos at Bobby's out there in Sembawang. We're at Chompang Plaza. We're at CK Tang's. We're down at Thompson Plaza getting our comics from Comics Cage. At the Cooler Bar. Down Chompang Markets, like a 13-year-old kid grabbing the
Yeah.
164 and the 167 from Sembawang into town, or grabbing it. Man, I still know all this stuff as
You
a kid.
do, mate. I'm impressed, bro.
Yeah, yeah. There's no pressure at all. It was family. It was never seen as a job or even a career. That was just your family. We were army whānau.
I love
And
it.
so coming back and going through school and all the rest of it, it was always, I always wanted to be a cop. I wanted to go out there and change the injustices of the world. But back then, look at our influence as kids. Movies, comics, comic books first, and then movies, because you couldn't afford to go to the movies all the time. So I've still got the 18 comics, number 1, 2, and 3.
Wow.
The original 18 comics. I've got classic X-Men, number 1 to 20.
I'm
I've
impressed.
still got all of these comics. They're still in plastic.
Yeah.
They've got to be worth something. I haven't even looked at them. But that was all the influence, was comics and movies. It was still war. We were still in the army. We're all doing taekwondo down at the sports club. We're down watching martial arts things at the community centers every Sunday. So everything was always about, I don't know, how would you put it, like the righteous battle of life.
Yeah.
And you're an ager, so it's about harmony and kung fu and the elements and doing what's right and family. It was just a beautiful energy. So yeah, no pressure, bro. That was just a beautiful way to grow up.
Did you feel a natural calling to become a soldier? Because obviously you're thinking about becoming a policeman, but being a soldier is very different, right?
Yeah, and so the soldier side is because that's where you see your family doing everything, right? And so I got to the point at school, not very good at school at all. I went to school to eat lunch and play basketball, but I got very good at basketball, Paul. So I had the choice.
How tall are you, by the way?
6'3".
Good man. Good man.
Yeah.
I'm 5'6.5". So.
All right, so I'll tuck my elbows in if we ever go sparring.
Yeah.
Tuck them right in and keep my hands on my chest. Yeah. No one with island blood likes getting that liver shot. That's the island knockout, right?
I've heard that.
Yeah, slipping that right hand, get straight into that liver. No islander likes it at all. Yeah, so when I got to that point, I had the choice to play professional basketball or join the army. That was basically my two options at the time.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, back then, we're just 17.
Yeah.
17 and a half years old. And then so, that was the choice. Didn't do very well in my last year at school, working at supermarket, working at the garage station and pumping gas. And then so those basically the two choices. So, I joined the army and I actually failed my first fitness test.
Wow.
I still remember that. I ran back to grab my mate, Afa Tuafenga, big island boy. And he's like, man, he's not going to make it. So I ran back to get my mate going and we both failed.
Really?
But, yeah, my dad was like, how could you fail? And I told him, and you recognize it later. That quality of going back for your mate was more important than passing for yourself,
Leave no man behind.
Yeah, and that was just who we were. It was like my mate. That's just what you do. And then when I got on the second time, you join the military, and you got to understand, my dad is 6'6". He's the first Samoan in the New Zealand Army at the time. So he came through, like, his story is amazing, out of Samoa at 10 years old, not speaking English, to the first Samoan and cadets and in the army for a few months, right? Does his full career. But he's 6'6". He's the combined service rugby team, softball, like he's the man's man.
Yeah.
And little fella here is like tall, skinny, beam pole, used to skip around the rugby field when I was a kid. It's like, oh my God, whose boy is that? Me being pale skin, and most of my friends were Maori Pacific Islanders. If it's my dad, me walking next to him, and one of my mates, and my dad said, "Lost my son," they'd always go to shake the brown guy's, the brown kid's hand. He's like, "No, this one over here," which is another part of the identity. With me looking like this, no one knows I'm Samoan.
Yeah.
So I got into a lot of rooms that Samoans couldn't get into. I ended up being accepted by a different type of person than anyone with brown skin could get accepted by.
Very interesting.
Yeah, but I've always had a multicultural mindset. Man, I didn't care what you look like, man, who you love, how you love them, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
All depends on the person. So yeah, no pressure. But then I joined the army, and that's when you find out, what brotherhood is really about.
Yeah. I've seen that. My son's only been in national service for a very short period of time, but it's already had a positive influence on him. What would you say was some of the more vivid memories from your time as a soldier?
Well, it's interesting because if you think about that question back when you were there, it's so much different from as a 51-year-old now looking back on what they are. So while you're there, the main thing is just getting good at your job. just making sure you're not the weak link, making sure that you're doing your bit for the section, because it's a really healthy, excuse me, inter core rivalry.
Yeah.
So no one wants to be the weak link, and so that's the main bit. I'm gonna grab a quick sip. 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah. Go for it. Take your time.
Look. Yeah. So back then, the main things that shape you is dealing with your own stuff, making sure your gears are squared away, making sure that you're physically capable. Because man, everyone gets to a point where physically you can't really go on,
Yeah.
but you're not going to stop. So the most vivid memories back then, just going through that first aspect of building together, is just squaring your own stuff away, just making sure you're not that weak link. And then as you become that senior soldier, it's that confidence. Like you know, there's nothing you can't accomplish. You get given a mission, you're going to do
Yeah.
it.
For sure.
Yeah, and then most of it was just all exercises. That one deployment to Bosnia was just peacekeeping. But then you start. There's one thing you can't explain on a podcast or from stage. You can't explain, and every military cop, merchant services person knows this. You cannot explain how something feels.
Mm.
I've walked into situations like checkpoints in Bosnia. It's cold, nothing's going on, no one's shooting, none of that sort of stuff. Then you see an old lady walking across carrying 2 heavy suitcases, and she's just ambling along. And just what they're wearing and how they're walking is all the stuff you see on TV, or movies from World War II and all that sort of stuff. So now you're actually seeing what a war zone looks like, bombed out houses and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then your section commander, who was Goblet Tongas, go help that lady with those suitcases. And I'm physically struggling trying to carry one suitcase with 2 hands. And this old lady will just do what she does. So that feeling, until you've been in that war zone and seen how people live and interact with the kids, because the kids are always the marker, bro. Wherever you go around the world, the kids are the marker to what that society is like,
Yeah.
what that village is like. And man, I know you've been from the UK, without both us getting in trouble and getting cancelled on this podcast, there are some neighborhoods and some
Oh, mate.
demographics of people where their kids are just little
Yeah.
carbon copies of places we don't go.
You know, it was interesting. So I grew up, so I'm half Chinese, half Irish, and I grew up in Southall, which is a migrant area just outside of Heathrow Airport, and it's predominantly brown.
Yep.
So Indian, Pakistani, Bengali. And on my street, there were 110 houses, and there were only 2 non-brown families on it, a Jamaican family and my family.
Wow.
And and the funny thing is, because I'm half Irish, so the Irish hate the English and vice versa. So I've got an Irish surname. So I just found that I got racism everywhere I got. So what you learn to do is lean into who you are, right? And
Yes.
and get past that. And I think, what I learned is you need to have a big personality. You've got to be confident. So like you, I don't really see color. I don't, but other people do. But what I realize is you get past that initial subjective idea of who you are, and it changes everything, right?
It does. And that's that identity value piece again, Paul.
Yeah.
You start with, if you're rock solid on who you are, then the outside stuff can't affect you. And you take that further into where you are now, is your identity now has to create value for other people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, you start off with, just starting this off and you're just building new things and marketing, and everyone's like, you got to be able to communicate value and blah, blah, blah. It's all about value. And in
I like
Singapore,
that.
it's always about the financial value. But for what we do as human strategists is, how do I provide value to this human being? And what normally happens is the math is a negative when I meet them. So in their mind, the math is at a negative. Everything's a subtraction. Everything's getting taken away. And suicide, when it comes to math, is when the value of being dead is greater than the value of being alive. That's it. That's the math.
Well, talk to the audience that may not know this. So when we spoke, we talked about the legality of suicide in Singapore and neighboring countries like Malaysia. Just as the expert, I'll let you enlighten people that may not be familiar with it, and also what the suicide rate is, in New Zealand per capita, and how it's growing here in Singapore.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting one. So back in the penal code, which came from the UK, attempting to kill yourself was a crime, was a criminal offence. Killing
Yeah.
yourself wasn't, right? So really, really difficult to ask for help. Now that was only repealed in 2020, bro.
Yeah, it's mad.
only 5 years ago. So the only study that's current at the moment in Singapore comes from a 2021 study, or sorry, 2022 study, where they did a study on 221 Singaporeans,
Yeah.
right? So they got bugger all data, but they still haven't worked out the psychosocial side. They're not talking about social media. They're not talking about AI. They're not talking about, so that's so out of date already, and they're going down that path. So if you look at all the stats, Singapore youth aged between 10 and 15 are still higher than the general average for suicide. But you got to remember, this is Singapore too, man. So you take any reported stats. Now, I
Yeah.
can't say exactly what the fact is, you'd multiply it.
Yeah.
Singaporeans do not talk about this.
No.
The fact that they got
Unequivocally not.
221 to go through is like, that's worst case scenario.
Yeah.
I've got suicidal Singaporeans I deal with every week. And
Yeah.
there's a group in Singapore, and they've got one champion at the moment from the Indian community. His name is Sanjeev Gathani. And
Okay.
so he's been trying to get me over to Singapore for ages to speak to this, but no one will let you speak to it
Yeah.
unless there's some sort of solution. And what's horrible here in New Zealand is our main demographic of kids that are killing themselves are Maori and Pacific Islanders, when we're in a big identity clash where all Maori teenagers are getting demonized. So there's not really any sort of appetite to want to stop those kids from killing themselves. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Now, people will hear this and freak out. And this is the other reason why you get me to come and speak, because I'm not going to hide from that.
Yeah.
It's like, why won't anyone implement these solutions that we already know work? It's because
Yeah.
you've got to get through these other gatekeepers. So Singapore, your 10 to 15-year-olds, that's the danger group, man.
Well, it's interesting because look, I'm 47. I've always had issues with depression, and you know, we all, not all, but most of us at some point have crawled into a dark place, and that's why I just do what I can. I reach out to my friends, and I'm reminded because years ago I had a couple to my house for dinner and a friend, and it was actually my first boss in Singapore, and 3 weeks later, her husband, who was very successful in all measurable ways, you know, family man, grandfather, happy, great career. He took his own life. He hung himself in Singapore. And then a couple of years later, the other gentleman that was at that dinner as well also tried to kill himself. Fortunately, he's still around and he's doing his bit now. But, you know, the crazy thing was when I went back and I looked at that dinner, there was no telltale signs. Right. And there's an amazing advert. I don't know if you've seen this advert. It's in the UK. It's about these two guys that keep going to a football game. One's very gregarious, one's very quiet. And they keep going back for a whole season. And then the last video scene is there's an empty seat. And one of the guys has taken his life. But guess what? It was the gregarious guy.
Yeah.
You know,
and
it's
so
very powerful.
Yeah, I've seen that video, I've seen that advert. And here's the interesting thing. Those of us that are in, we already know that. You know, we already know these things. And so this is what we found. And this will be the first challenge to it, all right? Because we challenge these based on results and experience. If you know, you know. If you've been through it, you know it. You will know, because you've just said to me that you also know that you've got the depression roller coaster, for want of a better term, which we'll speak to in a moment. You will know instinctively if anyone you're sitting next to is on that same frequency.
Yeah.
Or you'll see a post on Facebook, or you'll just think, you'll know. Like, you don't need flipping a study of 221 people done by a clinical psychologist to sit down and go, something's not right there, because you've been in it. That's what I'm saying. You can't explain how it feels.
Yes.
And so just a really quick lesson here. I call this I created this mental health compass just to help people out straight away. All right. There's up and down, forward and back. That's it. All right.
Yep.
So your energy levels are going to go up or they're going to go down. If they go up way too high that you're freaking out, the medical model will say that's anxiety. Yeah. If the energy levels go too far down, when it gets down to the bottom, they'll say that's depression. And there's scales up and down, right? So that's your up and down. Your forward and back is, are you going to come forward under pressure, or are you going to bail and go back?
Yeah.
And that's got nothing to do with cowardice or courage. That's everything to do with energy. If I'm under full pressure and something, I'm going to attack, man. I'm coming forward.
Yeah.
That's always going to be, I'm going to come forward and go straight at it. All right.
I love it.
Yeah. Other people will, as soon as the pressure comes, they'll fade and they want to get away to create space and distance and safety, which is very, very smart.
Yeah.
But if you get them too quickly, they'll lash out and then they'll go. And so in that lashing out, so many people get misdiagnosed for, hyperarousal and the violence and the aggression. They're not, man. They're trying to create space to get away. And so the other thing we say here in New Zealand and the Pacific Islands is give me the Maori word or the Samoan word, any Pacific Island language word for anxiety. And it doesn't exist because we don't have an X in those alphabets. So we know that all of these words are just made up words. Every word in any language is a made up word, right? It's just a word that explains something. So I figured out very quickly the word anxiety can't exist because it's never existed. It's made up. The word depression is made up. Hyperarousal, they're all made up words. So I'm like, well, hang on a second. Every word is made up until we agree to what it means. So when I changed all the words, I just went, well, hang on a second. If we look at a boxing context, if I get attacked and I slip and I want to come forward, that gives me control.
Yeah.
If he's a little bit faster and stronger, man, I'm going to start backing off and creating some space and try and get an angle. That's smart. If it's, I'm going to have heaps of energy to start with, and I'm going to blow it, especially if I get a gut shot. And so tracking that energy without the words is a very Asian thing to do.
Yeah.
A very elemental thing to do. Okay, we're talking about fire versus water. We're talking about wind versus earth. Like where is the energy at the moment? And that's when I started looking at people as a energetic jigsaw shape. The dude that had the spike at the front, okay, cool. He's going to come forward when he's under pressure.
Yeah.
And that's all the complaints I'm getting. This guy's aggressive. He's intimidating. He's over the top. Doesn't have control of his temper, okay? So his first piece, he's got a spike at the front. Is he coming forward? Now, when someone challenges that, is he pushing hard or is he bailing? Oh, he's bailing. When we pull it up, he breaks down in tears, or we have a performance management meeting and he apologizes and everything's fine. So that's not a werewolf. That's not hyperarousal. That's hypervigilance. This dude's just trying to get away.
Yeah.
What's he dodging? And then so I just started creating all these different vocabularies for all these different languages. So now I could speak in the medical model, hyperarousal, hypervigilance, depression, anxiety, which is cool. I can speak to psychs. I'm clinically endorsed. That's cool. I can speak to a soldier and go, what's going on? Okay, so he's a werewolf. He's an assassin. She's a ghost and she's a vampire. Like, that makes perfect sense. And all I was using was this compass in the middle. And then you just had to find a modality that made sense to them. The medical model, psychology, counseling, medication is fantastic for the right sort of person.
Yeah.
The energetic, going to a retreat in Bhutan with Dalsin Supanya, Yana Fry, and Johnson Chong would be just as effective. Yeah. But there was no assessment tools across different modalities because you weren't allowed to. Every modality protects their own. It'll be like when crypto, DeFi areas, and blockchain take over currency in Singapore. It'll be like, oh my God, what's fintech going to do?
Yeah. And it's going to be, well, one of the things I wanted to talk about is you've often spoken about your inner mana and empowerment. How did you discover your own and how have you helped reclaim it?
Broke it.
Love that.
It broke. It broke first. Like, the only time you know how something works is when it stops working, right? And you pull it apart.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. So mine broke. And so, awesome family life, or just awesome life. I got nothing to complain about. Yeah, bullied at school. A lot of people get bullied at school. Gave me some good lessons now. Horrible at the time. I go through military, fantastic. I go through police. Police is where you see all the horrible stuff.
Yeah.
You want to see the evil of mankind, you go be a cop.
Yeah.
At least in the military, there's the enemy and kill or be killed, right? There's more of a purity to it. Not so much now because I'll just kill anyone at the moment. They don't really care who's who. Back then, there's rules of engagement, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Now they don't care. They'll fly 20 drones into a hospital. But police is where you actually see the worst things that human beings can do to each other. The child molesters, the rapists, the murderers.
Horrific.
All of that stuff. You get to see it, feel it, taste it right up and down. That's the cop.
Does that, I'm sure that must darken your soul because you're going home every night and I don't know how do you distance yourself from it? Because it must be just traumatic.
Well, it all depends on you and your training, right? And here's the biggest thing. And so I talk about it in the book. I dealt with most of the dead kids when I was a cop because I didn't have kids. We had dogs. If there was a dead dog run over on the road, I'm in pieces. I go home, wake my dogs up, give them a cuddle. Because there's no point of reference for me.
Yeah.
After I left the police, been for overseas and all the rest of it. Once I became a dad, that's when all the nightmares started.
Really?
So I'm having nightmares and flashbacks of all these dead kids. But I never had them at the time.
Yeah.
Because there was no context for my mind to go, hey, you've now got kids. Our point of reference for kids is they're all dead. Or someone's fiddled with them or something on those lines. And that's what starts that off. So there's lots of awesome tools and processes that you can use. But I had an advantage, Paul, because I'm an ex-soldier.
Yeah.
So I could switch emotions on and off.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that because you've been on the front lines, both literally and emotionally. What was your darkest time? Was it after your dear friend passed away 18 years ago?
That was the worst one because I wasn't there. I
Ah,
couldn't do anything. That's the most frustrating thing. Like I've been in life and death situations. One of the ones I'm not allowed to talk about because it'll get me in trouble with a certain government. But we're fighting for our life with our hands, right?
mm,
That's the point that we got to. And
wow.
so we acquitted ourselves really well. I'm in a few people's books. Like there's stuff that we did that if we hadn't have been there, there's been a whole lot of dead people. There's a few dead people, but if we hadn't have been there, that whole place would have burnt down. And so those that are listening to this will know what that situation was. And we acquitted ourselves really well. So in the moment of the thing, there's no issue, right?
Mm,
The only issue are those that ran and weren't involved in it, and we stayed.
yeah,
And then it was afterwards for those that stayed, put their life on the line, man, and were absolutely crapped on for it.
yeah,
And again, that comes down to value. So the darkest time for me was when Dip got killed because I wasn't there. I didn't have the ability to use all of this to protect him. And then
mm,
the other dark times is when you hit those periods of your life where you've done all this stuff, real life and death important stuff, and then you're absolutely nobody in this other environment.
mm,
And that's what makes it really, really difficult. So regret and survivor's guilt kill a lot of people. And that's either because someone didn't do what they were supposed to do and somebody died, which is our greatest fear, right? Which gets
yeah,
us to the top of the food chain while we're training so hard.
yeah,
Or you straight failed or you weren't there. And then so because I wasn't there when Dip got killed, I had to keep putting myself in situations to try and get that back. You're chasing a train that's left the station. You can never catch it.
yeah,
And then so if you run out of situations of dangerous situations, put yourself in, so you create them. And so when the Ukraine-Russian conflict kicked off, there's about 12 guys that I knew went over there with one purpose and one purpose only was to get killed doing it
yeah.
because they had
I can
no value.
imagine. Yeah,
So they wanted to go
scary.
and pick a righteous battle. Now, I'm not picking a side here. I'm just saying you could have gone and fought for Russia. You could have gone and fought for Ukraine. You could go wherever your conscience took you, knowing that if you got killed, at least you were doing something of value to your conscience. And you got to remember, people have lost their lives. People have lost their marriages, have lost custody of their kids, have lost their houses, have been bankrupt after having put their life on their line for their country or for their people. And so, again, that suicidal math is, there's no point being here. I just got to find a way to not be here anymore, but I want to go out a righteous way. Or some people are just like, I just don't want to be here. And so one of my close friends, and I almost got him, I almost caught him, and it was just out of the corner of my eye. We're right in the middle of doing something up at the Line Academy, and he just came out of nowhere. He just walked through the door, and I was like, oh, bro, 2 minutes, don't you go anywhere. And I just caught the look in his eye out of the corner of my eye. I said, I'll be back in 2 minutes. And by the time I turned around, he was gone.
Oh no.
Straight over to Ukraine.
Shit.
And he went over there with the sole purpose of getting into a righteous gunfight, protecting somebody and getting killed. So that
You
was
know,
suicide by enemy, and a lot of people do it suicide by cop. He survived and he came back, right? So he
wow.
made it all the way back, and I managed to get my hands on him, threw him in a motel for 2 days, and we sat down and we just talked the whole thing out. And I was able to talk him through all of these processes and then look at different identities that had more value, which is that transition piece. So yeah, you've seen that side. I've also had that phone call on the Gold Coast, doing dishes, get a phone call from one of the boys. Hey bro, how far away do you live from such and such? I said, oh, he's just down the road. Well, what's he done now? And this is a big bodybuilding,
Yeah.
hardcore guy whose nickname is Rambo. And he's just hung himself.
Oh man.
That's the phone call. So I'm straight down to the house. I still got his military gear in my garage
Yeah.
because the circumstances surrounding that and the marriage breakup and everything else, one
Yeah.
side of the family, they just threw his gear out, just threw everything out. By the time I got there, we have all these big black gearboxes. So we have a black kit and a green kit, depending on where you're going. And it's got your vest and all your stuff in it. And so I saw them about to throw that on the truck. I said, give that here. Because he had a young son at the time, was about 6 or 8. And I said, give it here. And I spoke to his wife and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to hold on to this until your son's 16. Then I'll give it to your son. If your son wants to throw it out after that, he can throw it out. But no one's touching this stuff. So I've still got it.
Good for
So,
you.
yeah,
Well,
another few more years.
Well, I'm curious because when you wrote the Good News book, and you really thought about the counter narrative of that, you know, how did you come to the decision? Listen, this is going to be a great medium to get through to people.
No, I didn't. I just wanted to argue against the narrative that was there at the time. They basically say everything about it is negative. I'm like, well, how's
Yeah,
that going to serve anyone? Like,
yeah, yeah.
that narrative doesn't work. I'm like,
Agreed.
what if it was good news? And I just started looking for how the heck could this? And I turn it back into section battle drills
Yeah.
because they're effective. The number one training and duplicatable system that exists on the planet is the military model of recruiting and training.
Mm.
Like, if you meet the pre-qualification of the military and you do as you're told during training, you'll get the same product every single time,
Yeah.
year after year after year. And
Yeah.
that's the difference between the military and sales. That's what cracks
Yeah.
me up when we get into our corporate conversation, how hopeless salespeople are that try and hijack military stuff. They totally avoid the pre-qual and they just go straight to the payment, and they have all these issues at the back end.
Bro, listen, this is a discussion for another day, but I'm all over that because as a sales guy, I look at other people that are in the industry and I just think they've just missed so many different parts of, getting to where you are
Yeah.
now. But talking about that in terms of PTSD, what are the biggest misconceptions that you touched upon in the book and from your experience?
Yeah. So the reason I called it the good news was I figured out, and it started from a crisis situation. Again, I'm doing the dishes. Doing the dishes, ironing, polishing your boots, the conscious mind is not there.
Mm.
It's a very relaxing time. Even though I still hate doing dishes, I love ironing. I ironed my shirt before I came on your podcast. I ironed
Mate,
my
and
shirt.
you got to show the emblem. I love your shirt. Oh, mate, brilliant. I
I
love
got
it,
the
by the way.
line there.
Yeah.
Got my veteran pin and my police Huia feather there as well. And so, you know, I'm doing the dishes, and my 5-year-old daughter is sneaking up behind me to give me a fright because she thinks it's going to be funny, right? So she goes
Yeah.
boo, and I go, what the?
Yeah.
Because that's a
It's
contact
a
rear.
risk. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's freaking, oh shit. So I've grabbed her, given her a big cuddle, and had to sit her down and say, don't sneak up on daddy. She's
Yeah.
like, why not? I said, look, daddy's trained to protect good people from bad people. So bad people, and I have to be so fast, honey, I can't think about it. And so
Mm.
in the book, I did heaps of comics to explain that particular story. And so
Mm.
that's what happened first. I was doing the dishes, that happened. Then I explained to her that this is why daddy reacts this way. Like, you don't jump on daddy when he's asleep and all that other sort of stuff because I'm out. That's normally where the conversation finishes. These guys have been through this stuff. It's an instant reaction, blah, blah, blah. No one talks you how to get out of that and change it, or that there's good news. So here was the first piece of good news, right? I'm taking my daughter into town for ice cream. And so we're walking through town. She's eating her ice cream. We're just having a chat. And I walk past this group of colorful fellas, so to speak. And one of them gets smart to my daughter and says,
Mm.
hey, give me a bite of your ice cream. Just being smart. So I turn around and communicate to this young fella in the language of the werewolf, which then results in all these fellas running away. And then my daughter's just gives me the thumbs up because now she's seen, okay, daddy can be like that if someone
Mhm.
tries to hurt us.
Mm.
Daddy thought it was me trying to hurt him, which I wasn't, but that's why daddy reacts. That makes sense now. So I was like, well, that's a good thing, having the ability to protect your family,
Yeah.
but not having conscious control of it here in the world is dangerous. Not having conscious control of it in the battlefield is bloody awesome.
Yeah.
And so the story that I share was protecting the British consul general in northern Iraq. Good guy. Rest of the team has got food poisoning. So I'm just staying in his room in the hotel. It's northern Kurdistan, so threat level is not actually that high. But he had a blonde assistant, and at the time I think it was 10 or 20 grand US if you could kidnap a blonde white lady.
Jeez.
And so, long story short, he's asleep in one room. I'm on the couch with my Glock, and then 6 guys come through the door.
Oh man.
And so I've gone from asleep to awake and lining everyone up looking for weapons. None of these guys have weapons. Communicate in the language of the werewolf, which, funny enough, transcends all culture when you're pointing a pistol at them. And so they all go racing down the stairs, and I didn't have to shoot anyone, didn't have to do anything, right? That Goldcast video gets churched up all over the US side, right? But that's basically what happened, from being asleep, instantly awake, into my role. Now the Brit Consul General comes out, sees me chasing these guys out with my pistol as we go down. He freaks out, but he's impressed. And then we just put the couch up against the door and we carry on, right? That's normal. So to go from asleep to instantly alert, it's training.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, hang on a second. How can I have hypervigilance, hyperarousal, depression, anxiety, up, down, forward, or back, if that's exactly how I've been trained to react.
Well,
Ambush left, you turn, you fight into it. And I'm like, hang
I'm
on a
just
second, I've been
I'm
trained.
I'm just curious because sorry to interrupt you, there's time
Yeah.
delay. It's just when you in the corporate world, in the commercial world, you think about dispute resolution, right? And how you deal
Yep.
with things. No one, no one on the planet is going to be able to understand the extreme pressure that you've just mentioned. You know, like I'm an ex-fighter and I've been in a couple of
Yep.
hairy situations, but nothing like that. You know, that's just
Yeah.
that must you must carry that residual experience into everything, every part of your life, right?
I used to, and I'm going to give a massive shout out to Vikas Melwani.
Okay.
You know Vikas?
I don't know him. Shout
He is
out to
in
Vikas.
Singapore.
Okay.
He's in Singapore. He's the wisdom coach. You got to get him on your podcast. Vikas Melwani, when I first met him, I was going to stab him in Singapore at an APSS function. This is a true story.
Okay.
True Singapore story on your podcast. Can't believe it's coming out now. So anyway, so all this has happened. I'm in Frederick Harron's sleep out. I'm waiting to go to Johor Bahru. I'm starting my speakers thing, and I'm pissed off because our department had been shut down because I've done the right thing. You know, I've stopped this lady from jumping out and killing herself in Singapore. And I run the how to raise the value of human capital at the Fullerton Hotel and try to tell people that this is important stuff. You've got to look after the mental health of your people in Singapore, even though God is the money, money is the God over here. You've got to look after your people or you can't make money. And then I stopped the Singaporean from killing herself. And as a result of that, our whole department gets shut down. So I saw that as a universal. I'll continue on the speaking side and keep sharing this. And so anyway, I'm learning how to become a speaker. So I go to a speakers boot camp, which I didn't enjoy because I'm a soldier. So I'm a trainer, I'm an instructor. This is the objective, these are the outcomes, and this is what we do. That is not how speakers train people because they're not trainers, they're speakers. And so anyway, I was not enjoying myself. I'm pretty pissed off at the time. I go sit by myself to have lunch, right? Back then, I'm in the John Wick suit, right? So black shirt, black jacket, black tie, everything's black, right? Because that's the mindset back then, right?
Yeah.
As you'll notice, there's no black, all right?
There's
It's
no
all
black.
nice and blue and all the rest of it because of Vikas Melwani. And so I'm sitting down by myself. Vikas, I'd met him and his wife Sally at APSS Christmas do at Brenda's house. And so I'd already met Sally, so I met Vikas just in passing.
What's APS?
APSS is was it Asia Pacific Speakers something or other?
Okay.
The speakers thing? Yep.
Okay.
And so anyway, so I was sitting by myself. Vikas sits next to me, and another Indian guy sits next to me. And I'm so sorry, brother, I've forgotten his name, but he's the memory champion.
Okay.
He's the memory champion, Guinness Book of World Records, one of Jit's mates. So they sit next to me, and I'm like, knife and fork, like, why are these dudes sitting next to me? I was like, hello, hello, and I carry on eating. Don't touch me, all right? Like, don't touch me. I don't like people touching me. Like, and in that mindset, you don't touch me if I don't know you.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there eating. Vikas reaches over, grabs my arm. Out on he just reached, and he did it because he's an Indian guy and he's a very serene gentleman, and he reaches over like a father putting his arm on his son to tell him something with reverence. As soon as he touches me, I've got the got the knife in my other hand, and I remember just lining him up with the knife and just looking at this guy like, why is he touching me?
Yeah.
And he looks me dead in the eye, mate. And he flipping, I swear to you, Paul, he just stared into my soul, and he says, Dion, why do people kill themselves?
Wow.
Out of the blue, and I looked him dead in the eye and I said, because we've had enough, mate. And I just burst into tears.
Wow.
And I'm like, who's this guy? So I put my knife and fork down, and he says, I want to speak to you at the end of the day. And so they excuse themselves. I'm sitting there doing this, right? Like, watch this. No one gets through my armor, Paul. Nobody. Right? You can't get inside here. I got bulletproof glass at this stage, right? You can't touch this.
Yeah.
The only thing that can sneak through there is something higher, right? It's a higher power.
Yeah.
This fella just flipping snuck straight in there. And I don't know this guy, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we get through the rest of the day, and I go and I sit down next to him, and Vikas says to me, he goes, Dion, I have one gift on this planet. And he goes, I'm known as the wisdom coach. I have one gift. I can look at a human being and I can see your highest form.
Wow.
I can see who you are supposed to be. That is my gift. And if you will allow me, I want to share with you who I see you to be, and what you need to do if you want to achieve that. And he goes, I don't want any payment. All I ask is when the time is right, you give me credit where credit's due, which looks like it's going to be now. All right. And he goes, Dion, I've asked everyone about you, and they said, what do you think about this guy? And everyone said the same word. They said, man, that is one confident guy. You know, and so that wasn't a word I was expecting, but yeah, there's confidence there, obviously. You know, not scared of much. And he goes, and I watched you, Dion, and it's like you've got this shield up, and you don't let anyone in there. But then I saw you talk to a couple of people. You know, Jit was there, a couple of other people that I love dearly. And he goes, the moment I saw you with certain people, it's like you opened the shield up and you grabbed those people in here and you protected them.
Wow.
But to anyone you don't know, you're closed off. Everything's black. He goes, this is my advice. I want you to rebrand to the confidence coach, and I want you to ditch all the black. And so I switched. I switched all the colors to blue, and I started talking about increasing confidence. So then I became the confidence coach, increasing individual and organizational confidence. Started having the same conversations with clients. Hey, listen, where aren't you confident here? And it could have been for speaking or communicating. I did some really cool ones on fear and that sort of stuff, because Asians generally are such a beautiful, and they're an elegant people. And so they're not a chest beady sort of people. They're very gentle.
Yes.
And so they're very scared of saying the wrong thing and looking silly.
Yeah.
And so when I was seen as someone that could come and protect that, I became a protector
So
under the
interesting.
confidence side. Yeah, it was such a shift, but Vikas could see that. And then so that's when things really started picking up on that side. And I've always written. I've always got 20 or 30 books on the go.
Yeah.
Now with GPT, I can speed that all up because I've still got all my manuscripts. I'm just chuck that in there, reformat that, you know.
Bang.
And
Yeah.
so that was the first shift. But then you hit a conscience point, Paul. You hit a conscience point where you and I are smart enough to know how to play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in Singapore, you got to play the game if you want to get to a certain level. Now, I couldn't play the game in Singapore because people's lives were on the line.
Mm.
I couldn't play the game, go into Success Resources and try and pitch a confidence package when I knew that this was not about confidence, man. I got people in this country trying to kill themselves, but I couldn't talk about it to that degree then, so I couldn't play the game. And so I went to the online side and just coming to speak. And then when Jit asked me to speak at Ideas and Inspirations at the LLI building, it was really for a group of people that Singapore didn't really care about. I mean, let's be fair. There's a demographic in Singapore. If you're not making the money, you're not at a certain point, you're really not at the top, then you're generally discarded. No welfare. Singapore's a really tough place to survive if your income gets shut down, right? And so Jit had this amazing idea. A book had saved him. His journey's amazing. And he's like, bro, we want to do this. I want to bring personal development to the world for free. And so he's like, we're going to do this thing down at LLI, Ideas and Inspiration. We're just going to get a whole lot of people speaking and telling their stories. And we're just going to make that free for people. I thought, bro, that's amazing. So we shot down there. We did that speech, which would become the Goldcast speech. The memory guy, he's got like over 2 or 5 million views on YouTube now. He's amazing. So you got to get Jit Puru on there as well.
Okay.
And so it was all about confidence then, just increasing individual and organizational confidence. But what was missing was that academy. There was nowhere for people to go to get the information afterwards. I love TED Talks. I love podcasts. I love listening to speakers. But where do I go afterwards? Like I was listening to your mate Mustafa's podcast.
Yeah.
And he had a quote that stuck with me, and I posted it before I got online with you today. The responsibility is the reward. The money comes later. You know, so that's your podcast with your mate that I'm listening to while I'm ironing this shirt.
Yeah.
So I know the power of the spoken word to inspire someone or motivate someone, but that doesn't train them, Paul.
Yeah.
You know, like you can hear all the greatest podcasts from Muhammad Ali and, going all the way back, even Larry Holmes and him breaking down afterwards after he beat Muhammad Ali and Lennox Lewis. And you can hear all this stuff about boxing.
Yeah.
But unless you've been in the ring and been punched in the face,
it's very different.
You can't get what you need, right? And so I was like, what was missing was the training. And so Singapore has a trainers academy. Eugene Sear, it's when I first met David King. David King is a phenomenal human being. He made me cry in a trainer's speech. This is how I knew
Wow.
this guy was real.
Powerful.
I'll take a quick diversion now because he's so David King, and there's another one. Man, the names escape me, but they're doing a lot of speaking at the moment for Prudential, and that whole insurance side of things. Eric, what's Eric's last name?
Don't worry, I'll come back to you. No problem.
Yeah. So they're doing heaps of cool speaking stuff now. But the first speech I heard from David, Eugene Sear asked me to come down and listen to some of the speeches, give some feedback. Because I'm about structure and training, right? David King tells a story of his grandmother suffering from dementia, and I'm sitting there crying. This is one powerful heart speaker, right?
Yeah.
Didn't touch the room at all. I'm looking around the room like,
Why?
emotion has zero value in Singapore.
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about sales and talking
Do
about
I've
communication.
analyzed that, right? Because I moved here in '01, and I learned that in business, yes is often a no.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll share stories with people, and they don't have an expression, a response. And I kind of questioned it, but I think it is cultural, and it's very nuanced. But what I realize is, I think a lot of people, now that I've been doing coaching for a while, they take that away with them.
Yep.
It has impact, but they won't respond to it. Like if you told me something, I say, "Fuck, man, that's really," like I'll let you know. But it's interesting what you're sharing.
Yeah, and it's only when they come back to you privately. But what started happening was the kids would come back. And that is very scary. That's really scary, man. Like you'll do something, and then that person will go away and they'll watch it, and their kid will see it. Their teenage kid will see it and go, "Dad, what's that?"
Yeah.
Oh, it's one of the speakers that came into work.
Yeah. That's when you need to take awareness right there and then, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what I was going, and I was watching this. I was like, but there's nowhere to go afterwards. So that's why I created the academy. Like, I refuse to speak for a client now unless they agree to the audience getting access to the course I'm about to speak about. If you want me to come to Singapore and share the trauma side, how to get out of trauma to transition without unpacking that, so we don't freak everyone out. It's like if you're struggling with any of this stuff, this is what you do. But for this stuff, everyone will get a free course confidentially. Go do whatever you need to do with it. Go to your cycle counselor or your priest or whatever. Unless the organization is willing to give me that audience details and give them, I'm not going to come and speak. I don't care how much you pay me. I'm not coming.
Yeah, it's got to be meaningful and impactful, right?
Yeah. Even when I said that, now I was given, when we did the numbers, we're giving away $10 million worth of course access. So when I say to an organization, it's just like, hey, this whole program is $1,500 per person.
Yeah.
If you want to put me in a room with 10 people, it's $15K for me to run them through trauma, transition, and evolution over the week, right? I'm willing to give all of that to them online for nothing. 1,500, all of that for, because I need to know that they've got the information. They don't have to use it or even need it, but they've got it, right?
Yeah.
But then the first thing that come back was, oh, this is a really good ROI. I'm just like,
yeah, they're missing the point. Yeah.
When this is how I secured every payment that I got before I left Singapore. Exactly what I said at the start of the podcast. Anyone listening to this, I can increase your engagement, productivity, and revenue by 30% guaranteed. And they go, what's the fee? And I'll say 10% of your loss. And here's the thing. Right? They're like, hey, that's good numbers, Paul. You get a 30% increase in those things, and you got to pay me 10% of the loss.
Yeah.
And then the next question is, well, how much is my loss? Also, you should know that, right?
Yeah.
But here's what people don't understand about engagement. If you take your organizational engagement percentage, and you multiply that by your yearly payroll, that is your yearly loss in dollars.
Yeah.
Now you imagine how many CFOs, when they see that equation, don't then want to get me in there straight away and go, can you do the disengagement assessment, please? But what I already know, 20% of every workforce is struggling with some sort of mental health challenge. 20%.
100%, mate.
Yeah, and 20%, and this is big for Asia, and they hate me saying this, and I reckon it's higher in Singapore, but 20% of every corporate organization is getting bullied.
Yep.
And Singapore has that big hatchet where they can basically say, nah, you're gone, and there's 5 million people waiting to take a job.
That is so true. It's scary, because one of the things I often say is the biggest dichotomy in the corporate world is that the CEO who's in the job today is unlikely to be in the job 5 years from now.
Yeah.
It's not their fault, but they're up for re-election every year. They're being measured quarterly, monthly. So the truth is, even though they may even have the best of intentions of trying to preserve the mental health, the success of their people 5 years from now, the reality is most of them really don't give a shit because they're looking at runs on the board today.
Yep.
I had a client reach out to me, a corporate coaching client, and he wanted some personal coaching, and he said he's getting bullied, married, 3 kids, and I
Yep.
said, I'm terribly sorry to hear that. Sent me his org chart, went through it, and I mean, in the end, he had to leave
Yep.
his organization. But I wanted to put some, because the thing is, you bring that home. He
Yep.
brings that home, and I was so proud that someone was comfortable enough to share that with me. Do you know
Yes.
what I mean? Especially for a man. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is, guys like us, who men's men, tough guys. I think it's very important that people like us bring some awareness. I was watching an interview with Shaq this morning. I just find Shaq so interesting. And the
Yep.
woman asked him, like, what insecurities do you have? And he says, all insecurities. She said, what do you mean? Of course I have insecurities, and I'll be candid with you. Like I used to think I wasn't afraid of engagement, combat, difficult
Yep.
conversations until 3 years ago when my son said he was struggling with, he was a bit worried about things. And I realized that I've been lying to myself my entire life. That's how I dealt with it. And that's now changed the way that I engage colleagues, and most importantly, my kids. But
Yeah.
the most important thing that I've realized in this is this: most of us, even guys like me and you, that probably in many ways, in theory, don't give a shit what people think. We all care what people think. But what I
Mm.
always say to the guys I work with, you just can't let that hold you back from trying to access your greatness. I've got a question for you, because if you were to sit down with a young person today that was struggling
Yep.
with depression, trauma, PTSD, what are some of the key things that you would say to them to get them to reevaluate things?
Oh, absolutely. I love teaching this stuff. So I'll share the link with you afterwards. But I was asked, there was these 5 questions that all these kids were asking in Malaysia. So it was the Malaysia Psychology Association, MPA, asked me to answer these questions for teenagers, right?
Yeah,
And so the first thing that I say to all of these kids, if anyone is listening to this, and man, make your kids sit down and listen to it. Like, my daughter's 15,
yeah,
and before she's allowed to go on an overseas trip by herself, she has to sit next to me and watch the movie Taken by Liam Neeson.
I love it, bro.
Yeah, and like, you're not going near. So I've taught my daughter all my combat stuff. Like, she's pretty flipping good, mate.
You and
But
I have a lot in common, man.
yeah, I'm just like, no, this is a not negotiable. When Daddy says it's a not negotiable, it's a not negotiable.
Yeah,
So the not negotiable for my daughter Kaya was, you're going to learn these techniques until you can throw them without thinking about them, and she hated it.
yeah,
Now she's really, really grateful. She loves the gym. She's got a gymnast sort of strength.
yeah,
She can look after herself to the point where she can throw an axe kick hard enough to pop my knee. So I have to be careful. So I know that she can physically defend herself if she needs to.
yeah.
She knows that too. So her confidence level has gone up. So she's never in a situation where that's going to happen to her, because she exudes confidence. No one's going to have
Love
a
it.
go. My son is like me. He's going to be a beanpole until he's 23. So he's tall and he's skinny. He's got no weight to him. So he's not going to be able to wrestle or BJJ, but he's long. So all I'm doing is teaching him a really good jab and counter jab.
Yeah,
And then outside of that, buddy, if he gets a jab and a counter jab, he's going to move. So he does a really good jab. He moves, goes right hand, left hook, right hand. He gets out of the way, throws another jab. If that still hasn't worked, you kick him in the nuts as hard as you can, and you run.
get out of there,
This is what I'm teaching my kids, right?
as you should, mate, as you should.
Yeah. And so, coming back to, if any kid is listening to this, any teenager right now, if you are freaking out about anything,
Yeah,
right, anything at all, if you're worried about your school grades, if you're worrying about letting your parents down, if you're worried about something that you've done wrong that you're about to get, if you're worried about anything as a teenage kid, listen to this right now. First and foremost, I'm going to tell you point blank, it's absolutely natural. If nothing else was going on in your life apart from being a teenager, that would be hard enough. Teenage years are tough for everyone. All right. So I'm not
yeah,
devaluing what you're going through. I'm just letting you know that you are not alone. And then whatever you're freaking out about, there is a way through and out if you can find the map. And that's one of the things we pride ourselves on. We have a map for all of these places.
yeah,
If you are depressed, we have a map so you can get yourself out of depression. If you have anxiety, I've got a whole free community YouTube video on redefining anxiety. Anxiety is a guard dog that barks so that something can't hurt you. That's its job and it's natural. Once
Yeah.
the dog barks, it's then up to you to assess, oh, thank you for barking. That's quite dangerous. I'm going to get out of the way. Or you don't have to bark at that, man. You're good. And then the
Yeah.
dog will start barking, right? We've got the same for hyperarousal and hyper. I built all these maps and all these paths out.
That's so powerful.
Yeah, because if any kid, and now with AI, what we're doing now is like, hey man, tell me a story, and we're just writing a story on GPT and then creating all the images, and that's narrative therapy and art therapy and all the psychology stuff wrapped up in cool fun stuff with your kids, man.
Talk to me about the three-pronged approach, that you guys use.
Yeah, so I came up with this three-pronged approach, which was that think, feel, do, right? When any human being is talking to you, they're speaking from their head, they're speaking from their heart, or they're speaking from their behavior. And like ask me any random question and I'll answer it in different ways. Like, or a question that you could ask a kid and I'll answer as a, how old's your son?
Just turned 18.
Okay, I'll answer as an 18-year-old. Ask me any life question in Singapore right now, Paul. Free reign, we'll do it live on here.
I'm struggling to take my relationship with my dad to the next level. I think sometimes we're competitive. I know he loves me, but I need to grow and develop on my own. What advice have you got for me, Dion?
Come on, Dad. No, is this really the question? Is this really how you feel, Dad?
I like that.
Yep, because he's going to say feel, right? So he's going to identify good emotion. If he's problem solving for you, he's going to come back and go, why are you so competitive with your dad?
Yeah.
He's in his head now. He's thinking.
Yeah.
So he's not emotional at the moment. And one of the biggest issues that we have when talking to kids, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to kill myself. Everyone freaks out.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to handle that conversation. My son handled that conversation at 9 years old at school. Him and another kid were just to go out for lunch, and my son was grabbing something. This other kid was there. The teacher was on his way out, and the teacher said to this other boy, "Are you okay?" Dumbest question in the world, for the record. It's a closed question, as a salesman. Dumbest question in the world.
Yeah.
This kid goes, "No, I want to kill myself." This is what this other 9-year-old said to the teacher. What does the teacher do? Freaks out.
Yeah.
Doesn't know what to say. Someone said they're going to kill themselves, suicide, mental. All the warning bells goes off. My son reaches over, puts his hand on his goes, "Hey, buddy, what'd you say?" He goes, "Oh, I want to kill myself." He goes, "No, you don't. How else could you say it if you couldn't say those words?" First thing my son said, because what I teach my son. If you couldn't use those words, what words would you use? "I'm just having a really bad day." Okay, cool. What other ways could you say it? Shit day? Okay, cool. Why? What's going on?
Yeah.
Well,
break it down.
And once this comes out, it's going to fall into think, feel, do.
Think, feel,
it's going to fall into think, feel, or do. It's the only three things a human being can do, Paul. Now, I can give you a psychological or energetic and an explanation of all of these things, but we're going to end up in those three prongs of that triangle.
No, I love it. I love it. Well, one of the other things, by the way, I'm mindful of time because you and I will be here for a week. So I want to go through some of these. But one of the most important things that I've read about you was your philosophy on making peace with the mirror.
Oh,
I want you to speak on that because that to me is so simple, but it's very difficult for most of us to come to terms with. Right? We're always in a battle with ourselves. Talk about that.
So horrible to ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, it's impossible for you to be bullied unless you agree with what the bully says.
I love that. Spot on.
It's impossible.
Mate. Yeah.
It's impossible, right? What about physical bullying? That's called assault. That's a different conversation, right? But it's impossible for you to be bullied unless you agree with what the bully says. Yeah. And so there was a time I hated who I saw in the mirror. Absolutely.
How long ago was that?
Probably pre-Singapore. So maybe 6-7 years ago. It was before the speech came out.
Okay.
Because we're so judgmental to ourselves, right? And so when I went back in time and I mapped this, I'm big on maps and I'm big on processes to be able to explain it. It was about the mirror. The mirror's got 4 corners, right? And I found out there were 4 L's of confidence that we attack ourselves. And if other people attack the same thing, then we agree with them and our mirror cracks. First one is always your looks. At school, if kids are going to pick on something, I'll pick on your looks.
Yeah.
Fat, skinny, pimples, glass, anything they can see.
Yeah. They're going after it.
Yeah. And then that's looks, right? It's got a corporate context to this. We'll talk about that one afterwards. So looks first. Next one is language, your ability to communicate, or what you're allowed to say. All right. So you look in Asia, like depending on how succinct you are with your English, is how confident a lot of Asians are. If their English language isn't high enough, they're gonna back off that in their confidence, right? And
Exactly.
so that's the first two, your looks and your language. The third one is your likability, which is
Yep.
why Facebook calls it likes. And we
Yep.
know what the psychological programming of scrolling is designed to do, make you put your thumb up like this all the time.
Yeah.
You're programming yourself to like, endorphin thing. And then the last one is legitimacy. You don't feel legitimate. You don't feel enough. You don't feel... There's only four corners in your mirror. There's only three things you can do as a human being. There's only four sides to a mirror, right? And so what happens at its baseline is if you can choose to like yourself, choose to like how you look, love it, hopefully, and talk to yourself like that in the mirror. If you are confident in speaking your truth in your own language, and a lot of what I had to learn was I had to adjust my language to the audience, as we all know in what we do in our roles. But even the words that I use now, the tone and the inflection when I'm talking about this with corporate is different. Likability, you've got to learn to love yourself, man.
You have
And
to.
the first word that I destroy, which is really interesting, is selfish.
Yeah.
Selfish is the most positive word we should have in our vocabulary. And from 0 to 100%, what percentage do you think that is negative for most people's mindsets?
Yeah. It's 100%. Everyone thinks it's
Yeah.
they frame it in that's no good. But self-preservation, self-care is everything, right? You
Yeah.
got to love yourself to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And so selfish, we kill that word there. And then your legitimacy and all of that, it feeds into that VIP triangle of value because you have to define it. You can't let the world define it. But us as parents, and here's the flipping danger, and here is the massive reward of being a parent. You design your kids' mirror. You design your kids' VIP triangle. You control what they eat. You control what they watch. You control what they say to themselves. And so my not negotiables, my kids all have prayers. My kids all have affirmations and they're designed for them. And they have to say them every single day and every single night. They hate it now. But I am psychologically brainwashing my kids
Yep.
into being positive.
Yeah.
Because
Listen,
otherwise the world will do it.
you touch upon that because it's funny. Quite a few people have engaged me and they've said, I want to work with you. And I've only asked them a few times, was anything specific? Why? Because normally it's about work. And actually the few times I've asked, they actually said to me, your opening today was really to get to know me. And then you shared a little bit of information about you as a dad and what you're going through. And they connected with that. And actually when I look at, if someone asks me, what are some of your USPs? What are you most proud of? And I said, well,
Yep.
to know me, all you have to do is look at my wife and my kids.
Yep.
That tells you everything you need to know about me, right? And the thing, like, again, I'll use my son as an example because so I'm 5'6.5", he's 6'1". He wasn't a natural athlete, and for some reason he just didn't take to sport. And I think sport, music, the arts, it's so
Yep.
important in terms of creativity for kids, but sport in particular, and in particular for young men. And in my humble opinion, if you can physically take care of yourself, it gives you a level of confidence that no other sport will do. Like you could be a great football player, but if you physically can take care of yourself, it changes your aura. It gives you a
Yep.
level of calm.
Yep.
But what I learned through his journey was, he doubted himself a little bit. So I was the opposite. So if you told me I couldn't do it, I'd tell you to F off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe because I grew up in that environment and
Yep.
it's just how I was born. And I believe, so I read this interesting thing the other day. I think it was from Jack Welch, the former guru from GE. He said, I could be wrong. I might be misquoting who gave me this quote, but if you have an employee that's just made a massive mistake for $100,000, the cost of the business, you just fire them, right? And he goes, no. I'd sit down, I'd find out, I'd keep them employed. Why would you take $100,000 loss and allow someone else to take that loss into their company, right?
Yeah.
We want to keep those guys as long as they've learned from it. And I
That's a
think
$100,000 lesson. Yeah, yeah.
As $100,000 lesson. And I was having a chat with my wife. My wife's a Fulbright scholar. She's got a PhD from Yale, brilliant woman. And we were talking yesterday about problems and challenges. And I said, look, the reality is, we all know this. Life is about learning to deal with challenges. Every challenge, every problem makes you stronger. So how
Yep.
like yesterday, I had a big issue at work, had a bit of a loss. And in that moment, you get kicked in the gonads. And
Yep.
you sit down, you take a deep breath. But a great definition of success for me, it's how high you bounce once you reach rock bottom, right?
Okay.
And you get back up. Let's do a bit of a rapid fire. What's something that most people won't know about you? What's the misconception about Dion?
I'm a private introvert.
All right, listen. Does everyone think you're an extrovert?
Yeah, yeah. I wonder why. I'm a public extrovert, but
I
I'm
like
a
that.
private introvert. I like going internal a lot. I'll go to the movies by myself. I'll go, call it tippy Heidi, just go for a wander by myself. Like, it's one of the things I love the most about being in Singapore, is jump on a ferry, go to Bintan, Batam, and just walk. And then when it starts getting dark, figure out the closest place to sleep. Like, I'm an introvert. I like my own time. I could stay in the bush by myself for a week and just chill out. Like, I love my own company, even though I'm doing all this big stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm a private introvert.
You and I got so much in common, mate. It's scary. What's one book other than your own, of course, that changed your life?
Oh man, there's been a couple, and one's ringing in my head because of your accent. So one of the first books that really changed my life was the Book of Proverbs from the Bible. It just there was something fascinating about it, but I didn't understand it until I got a book given to me by my dad one Christmas, and I'd gone through a whole lot of stuff, man. It was pretty hard stuff. And it was called The Richest Person in the World by Stephen K. Scott.
Mm.
Stephen K. Scott wrote a book about King Solomon. So if you don't, and this, take all the religion out of it and just hear this as a Paulo Coelho type story. Paulo Coelho, awesome dude. I just finished writing another book inspired by Paulo Coelho. Um, Stephen K. Scott wrote this book about King Solomon. So everyone knows David and Goliath, and King David was this mighty king. Now, when King David died, his son Solomon was about 10 years old. So pretty big shoes to fill. So Solomon goes before the Lord and asks for help. And so the book of Kings says, God says to Solomon, well, how can I help you? And Solomon's, I'm gonna paraphrase for your 18-year-old son here, because he's just ringing in my head. He'd be like, bro, I'm 10. I've got no idea what I'm doing. My dad was the best flipping king that who ever lived.
Yeah.
Freaking out a little bit here. It's a bit of pressure. I don't want to let these people down, man. Like, my dad's just this great legacy. I love my people. Can you just help me with my people? I don't want to stop this up. That's paraphrasing basically Solomon saying, I'm only 10. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you please help? Because I don't want to let our people down. And God's words were, God was so impressed he didn't ask for riches or long life for the life of his enemies. God's promise to Solomon was, I will make you the richest, wisest person who ever lived. That was God's promise to Solomon, right? And so Solomon wrote the book of Proverbs. And in the book of Proverbs, there's 31 chapters, one for every day of the month. All right, hold that thought. So then Stephen K. Scott writes a book on how you unlock the book of Proverbs.
Mm.
Every successful business book on the planet, from Law of Success, Napoleon Hill, all the way through to today, to what's the latest one? Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett.
I've just read that, actually. It was a good read.
He's got a beautiful tone to how he does this thing. So
Yeah.
this book unlocked Proverbs for me. And so then I fell in love with Stephen K. Scott, and he had all these awesome books that unlocked a lot of the religious texts. And then I met Steve, and I met Chuck Norris and a few other people. Chuck Norris said, don't name drop. His real name's Carlos. And so that was the first one that went, oh, hang on a second. Here's a way to understand ancient writings. Because there's always something really poetic about the Bible, and I've got my own faith, but Proverbs really made sense after I read that book. The second book I would say is The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino. The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino just allows a human being to understand just how amazing the human being is.
Yeah.
And I love metaphorical stories because I get bored on facts and figures. So he tells this metaphorical story about the rag picker, and it gives you a task to do for 100 days.
Wow.
And because I'm a soldier, I was attached to the task. And so I started learning, if
Yeah.
you speak, that's cool, but give people a task so that they can grow and transform without you which is what empowerment is. When you give your power to someone else, it becomes theirs.
I
Otherwise,
love
they
that.
become dependent on you.
It's very
And they have,
powerful.
yeah. And then the third book after that one is what my kids have a copy of it each. I'll tell you what the book is, and I'll tell you who I got it from, and you'll freak out. It's called "Oh, the Places You'll Go" by Dr. Seuss.
Okay.
That is the most accurate and powerful book on what the human life is. Every single kid should have a copy of this book. You should read that with your kid every single day until they get it. And it's such a children's book. And there's three components I love about that book. Firstly, it's all on you, man.
It's
And
all on
that's
you.
amazing, right? It's all on you. The second thing is it defines this place called the waiting place. And it says you must not stay here.
Mm.
And the waiting place, everyone's waiting for something, waiting for a train, waiting for the market. It's called the waiting place.
Yeah.
And then the third thing I love about the book, it talks about the rises and the falls as being a natural part of life. And it's so beautifully written. Now, that's a kid's book, right? So powerful. You could have a whole other podcast on Secrets of the Universe hidden in children's books, I'm sure.
Who gave it to you?
An Australian Special Forces operator who seldom says more than one sentence at a time. I am the intelligence manager on this contract. He is the operations manager on this contract. He's a Special Forces dude, SASR, Special Air Service Regiment from Australia. I am not. And then I'm just building stuff, writing books, doing all the sort of stuff as well, as you do when you're on a contract. You're building all your own stuff. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm just like, "Oh, I'm just writing books and this, that, and the other, and all the rest of it." He's like, "Eh." And he didn't say too much, you're on night shift together. And then he goes, "Yeah, so what are you writing about?" And I start sharing some of the books and stuff. He's like, "No, don't say much." Then he goes, "Oh, there's this piece of orchestral music that I listen to." The
Wow.
moment a special forces soldier starts talking like that, man, you're just like,
Yeah.
because they're a different breed, right?
You listen.
I'm just like, deep dude, man. So he plays this orchestral piece that I know. And he goes, "I don't remember where I heard it, but he goes, it touches my soul."
Mm.
And it's the orchestral piece from the final scene of Last of the Mohicans.
Oh, mate.
That's where they used it, right? And so
Yeah.
one of my favorite movies, I actually
Yeah.
bought the soundtrack after the movie.
Yeah. I've got it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so that final scene as a warrior, that's it, man. That's
Yeah.
it. If you had to put that in I feel it now, right?
Yeah.
If you had to put that in, that's it. And so he didn't know it was in the movie. He just actually heard the music. And so he had the music, didn't even know. He had never seen the movie.
Mate, that's music's so powerful. It's a story for another time, but I went to Mongolia after my mum died. I'm not religious, but I had a dream that I was riding a black horse next to two white horses in Mongolia, specifically Mongolia, because the last conversation I had with my mum, she asked me, "Where are you going on your next adventure?" And I said, "I really want to go to Mongolia." And what happened was I turned my phone off that night because I didn't want to keep looking at it. She wasn't well. And I woke up at 3:30 in the morning, having had this very vivid dream. And I said to my wife, "Oh, I think my mum's just passed away." 1 minute later, my wife gets a phone call from my cousin, puts me on the phone because my phone's off. And anyway, so I went to Mongolia and I rode a horse and I followed the dream. I'm not a horseman, but it was amazing. And then when I put it on Instagram, it was to that music because it's that visceral, that song.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me what grounds you when everything else around you is feeling chaotic.
I go by myself, man, and I talk to Jesus.
Good.
I don't like church, bro. I hate religion with a passion after what I've seen in my career.
Yeah.
But my relationship with Jesus is mine and mine only, man. I don't push on anyone else. I just go somewhere quiet. And then I just moan, bleat, cry, whatever, and then wait for the message. And then I just dive into Proverbs, man, and I figure it out. But that's what grounds me. What drives me is when you've been dead a couple of times, you know, we've all had what we call death days. And for all the people I've spoken to that had death days, it's either one or the other, right? There's only two types of experiences when you have near-death experiences. There's that whole massive regret, unfulfilled, should have done this, should have done that, blah, 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 right? And then for the rest of us, it is the most peaceful and warm feeling you can ever try to explain to another human being. You know that this is it, and you're just at peace. That's what total peace feels like. Peace of mind, conscience, everything. That everything leading up to this moment, you've done everything to the best of your ability. Win, lose, or draw. And it's peaceful. and you're so shocked and surprised that you're still alive afterwards. You're like, huh? Well, we're not supposed to get out of that one, right? And so once you've been through your death days, it really gets you thinking to, and my mind didn't go to, should have done, should have. I was like, what could I actually achieve?
Yeah.
What is Dion Jensen at 100%
I
of
love
what
that.
Dion Jensen was created to be? What's possible here?
I
So
love that.
I just keep pushing and pushing and you push too hard and you fail and you carry on. But
But
I keep,
that curiosity is driving you, right?
yeah, not only that, it's not the curiosity, there's an inevitability here. And then when you start realizing that there are actually no limits, it sounds really cheesy, bro. But there are literally no limits apart from self-imposed limits.
Yeah,
There
100%.
aren't any. It's like, I wrote the world's first good news book about post-traumatic stress disorder, never been done before. I just ran the first Suicide Solutions Summit, never been done before. We ran How to Raise the Value of Human Capital in Asia, never been done before. I'm like, we're doing all these things, never been done before.
Yeah.
It's like, so what could I actually achieve? Can I actually build villages all over the planet where people can come to in confidence, run all of these programs we're talking about, and leave better without anyone knowing?
Yeah.
Why not? Has it been done before? And so I always say I'm first, and having those lenses means I can do it everywhere. So the 4 hours of confidence in the mirror for an individual is exactly the same for an organization.
Yeah.
Do you look like the epitome of a business organization? Are
Yeah.
you using language to the market you're supposed to use? Is your likability at a high level for your customers? And are you legitimate in this marketplace? It's the same. And so when anyone ever comes to me, they're coming to me at one of those three lanes: trauma, transitional, evolution. They're
Yeah.
coming as an individual, an organization, and an industry, but they're all going to arrive at these three lenses. And so when they come to me, like you said, personal persons come to me for coaching. Okay, cool. What's the conversation there? Are we down here in the trauma human side? No. We're now here in the value side. Okay, cool. What's the value here? My identity as an employee in this organization now has a negative value. And that last example, on one lens, my identity of being an employee in this business now has a negative value of $100,000.
Yeah.
With this view, this CEO flips it and says, my identity now has provided them with a $100,000 lesson.
Yeah.
That if I take it on board,
Yeah.
the VIP triangle now of the organization, this person goes, the identity of this organization is not an organization that's going to sack me because I made a mistake.
It's a statement, man. It's huge.
Yeah. But having these lenses makes it very, very clear, because we don't have time, Paul. This is going to be on us before anyone's, like, I've been saying this for 5 years. The suicide epidemic, business is going, it's here.
It's upon us. 100%.
It's here now. Like any organization, you've got to get in and run these assessments now.
Yeah.
You've got to invest in your people now. And just quickly before we finish, COVID taught us this because, and I'm still a competitive person in regards to fighting evil, all right? Competition is an illusion amongst service providers, just about value. But for those that are really trying to hurt people, I love what I saw in COVID, where they put this term out, essential worker. Remember that?
Yep.
And guess who it was? It wasn't anyone that they thought it was.
Mm.
Who were the first people in the organization to make them essential workers?
Mm.
Were they right at the top or right at the bottom?
Yeah.
They were right at the top, man. And so in a military construct, there's no top and bottom. Like there's the highest rank and the lowest rank that people see, but that's the front line and support. Generals at the back, leaders are actually at the front.
Yeah.
So as a CEO, you're not a leader.
Yeah.
You're a commander.
Yeah.
So organizations go, what? But I'm the CEO. Well, there's your problem.
Mm.
So you got to be, empowering your leaders at the front. You're the commander at the back. You send the commands to get to the front line. Your operations level.
I love that.
That's still, so they've taken this hierarchy, this org chart, and they made it top and bottom. It's always front line at the back.
I love that, bro. Listen, we're gonna, because I'm mindful of time, so I want to go through these rapid fire. Because
it was rapid fire. Yes, rapid fire.
I want to go rapid fire.
Let's go.
What advice would you give to your younger self in a few words?
Don't change. Keep doing what you think is right.
Good man. Non-negotiable. What's a non-negotiable in your everyday routine?
Saying prayers of thanks for every meal we eat, prayers of gratitude before we sleep every night, and affirmations of positivity every day. Not negotiable.
Tell us, by the way, on that one, every morning when you go on live and you do a live, what do you say? Because I love it. I want you to say it because you've got to say it on my podcast. Because to me, if you didn't, I'd
Yes.
piss off
Oh, yeah,
myself.
okay. Good, everyone. What's good? What's good? What's good? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Who are you? Who do you want to be? Where are you? Where do you want to go?
I love that. I should have done that to finish, but anyway, I love that. By the way, I
That's all
love
right.
it.
And just
Habit.
quickly, because it's rapid fire, what's good? What's good? What's good comes from Toromo Baker. 3 things you're grateful for. Good friend of mine. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. What are your top 3 tasks you must complete today? That's from Takaipo Ahuriri, who just goes and does stuff. And the other ones are from me.
I absolutely love it. I'm telling you that I love that. Whenever I hear you say it, I put a smile on my face, big time. What's one habit you still carry today from your military service?
Ironing. I still love ironing.
There you go. Crazy, right? You wouldn't believe it. Life event that shaped you the most into the person you are today.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be creating the Lion Academy because of what happened with the. It used to be the pain that was associated to that. Now it's the pride, man. Just so proud of what we've created for our people. I just love watching my own people on stage, man.
You should be. It's amazing. What a journey. What's one belief you held 10 years ago that you've since outgrown today?
Oh yeah, the us and them. So when you're in the military, the warrior tribe is the warrior tribe, right? You know, it's lions and sheep and all the rest of it. And
Yeah.
when I initially went across to corporate, it was just to steal the money and bring it back for our people. But when I got into corporate, struggling with the same stuff, bro. We're all the same. Quoting my friend Arista from Singapore, we are all pieces of each other, and we're all walking each other home. There you go.
Well, I'll just quickly touch upon this. During his 3 years away from boxing, Muhammad Ali didn't have any money, so he would go and speak at universities. And at Harvard, they were saying, "Champ, give us a poem," because he know he was very famous. And in that moment, he said, "Me, we." Amazing. It was beautiful. Let's quickly talk about professional. What's the hardest lesson that you've learned from your time in the military?
Hardest lesson from the military coming into today, or just the hardest lesson while you're in the military?
Both.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, sad truth. Unfortunately, I did say to someone yesterday because he said to me, "Who are your industry friends?" And I said, "It's a bit of an oxymoron." He said, "Why?" I said, "Well, think about this in business. Most people are thinking about self-preservation. I hate to say this, but most of us, we drop dead on a Wednesday and the funeral was on a Thursday afternoon. How many people will take half a day or a day off to attend your funeral?" It's sad, but it could be true. Um, let's talk a little bit about the metric that actually reflects people's well-being at work. How can you measure this?
Yeah, this is a big one. So the term at the moment is well-being, and the only measurables that they're utilizing at the moment are surveys. Basic ones are lost time injury, sick leave, HR issues, and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
Happiness crept in there in Singapore. There's a few happiness consultants out there measuring happiness, but no one is providing those 3 lenses that we provide in regards to disengagement percentage, understanding the individual and how they fit into the organization, and working from the front line through operations back to the command team. And so you can't have a leadership consultant that goes and deals with the leadership team and then have a happiness dude. You've got to have someone that can come in and capture the entire organization that's been at all 3 levels, from the
Yeah.
darkest to the top. EAPs are 30% effective
Okay. That's good
because
to know.
yeah, and culturally, man, it'll be less than that in Asia.
What's one leadership principle that you live by?
Simplicity and clarity.
I love it.
Like, just as a leader, man, if you just keep things simple and the vision clear, it's really easy to lead, man.
What gets neglected more, mental health or leadership in the corporate world?
The effect that leadership has on mental health is what gets neglected the most.
Love
Every
that, bro.
single issue that I've dealt with in an organization comes down to leadership. Attitude affects leadership result. Everything is on leadership.
I know. Listen, I'm with you 100%. What a great answer. What's the biggest myth about crisis leadership?
That is unnatural and it's a disorder for the crisis, right? It's absolutely natural. You're doing the best you know how to do, or you're acting how you were trained. The biggest myth on leadership is position doesn't equal leadership. It's the lowest form of leadership, from John C. Maxwell. Position does not equal leadership.
Mate, you're on form, bro. Talk about the most powerful speech that you've ever delivered, and where was it?
It was, like I said before, it was in Malaysia at the Gujarati Association just to understand. Always thankful to Jip Puru and Raul Shah for making that happen. To be standing with Gandhi's people at that stage of my life, coming
Yeah.
from war back to peace,
Yeah.
and sharing Maori culture with the Gujarati people, bro, that's just
It's
that's
beautiful.
just insane. So powerful.
Good. What does human strategist mean to you in one sentence?
Putting jigsaw pieces together so that everybody loves the picture.
Beautiful. Now, this one, I noticed you put this up on Facebook, and I was kind of overwhelmed that you got so many people responding to you, which was, what's the one word that your clients would use to describe you? So I want two answers. I want what was your answer, or what is your answer, and what was the consensus from your Facebook poll? Because you had a lot of comments on there.
Yeah, it was because when you ask me that question, I always know it's effective, right? So, but it's an interesting one. So we'll start with my people. So my people, think, feel, do. My people are all emotional people, man. We're all heart people. And we've got some really smart intellectual people in there, but it's how you make somebody feel. Your greatest power you possess, how you make someone feel. So the consensus was it was a positive emotion.
Mm,
So any interaction with me as a human being, there'll be a positive interaction. Clients is 50-50. They'll all agree on effectiveness.
mm,
And so I am the only person on the planet to have a suicide solution, good news, trauma, all this sort of stuff, right? No one from the New Zealand Defence Force, no one from the police force, no one from government, no one that's in charge of any of these portfolios has ever engaged us, supported us, or even shown up for any of this. All
yeah.
right? Not one person on the planet has ever challenged our effectiveness.
Mm,
No one has ever said our stuff doesn't work. Our stuff works. So all of my clients that have hired me will say that I'm effective and I will deliver what they pay me to deliver. How I make them feel is going to be 50-50 because I won't play the game and I
I
won't
love
lie.
that. I love that.
And that's what's going to put organizations out the front.
What's the most underrated skill in business today?
Well, that was a really, really interesting one to answer because business is shifting so quickly. So I would say adaptability. So in
Yeah.
crisis leadership, we've got three components: the river, the rock, and the eagle. The river is the river of crisis energy. The rock is who you have to be as the leader. You have to be the rock, immovable, and the safe place. But the eagle is the vision. You have to be able to see what's coming and be able to flip it and get your people ready for it. And you have to be adaptable. That's all your systems. That's to go from one thing across into Zoom. That's to go from Chat GPT into something else. That's to go from being locked down because it'll happen again. It'll go from not having, like, you've just got to be adaptable. You've got to be really, really quick on your feet. And your
Agreed.
people will not listen to you if they don't have trust. That's the other thing we saw
Yeah.
in COVID.
They've got to believe in your leadership and the direction you're taking the company in. What's the biggest risk that you've personally ever taken in your career?
Biggest risk. If we're talking about the speaking career, it was running how to raise the value of human capital at the Fullerton Hotel in Singapore 10 years too early. That was a massive risk, but we had to do it. There would have been 50 people in the room, bro. That's it. And all the speakers volunteers. So massive, massive shout out to everyone that came to speak for that one. Darren Brunton from KBA Training Proprietary Limited, you got to get that guy on a podcast. He's all about the make a difference guy. He had the first female Muslim underwater commercial diver on the planet out of Singapore.
Really? Wow.
This guy he's in Singapore, bro. Like, I'm going to connect you to all my Singapore people after this, but
You
Darren
got to.
Brunton, he's the man. And before I forget about this book, because he's a UK brother of yours, Andy Lopata
Okay.
wrote a book called Just Ask. The background is they all had this mutual friend. They all loved him. He died. They all went to the funeral. None of them could figure out what this guy actually did. No, he was just always helping them. They found out he actually died by suicide. He killed himself.
Jeez.
And it was because of financial pressure. Andy looked around the room. He said there would have been $50 million in the room. Any one of us would have given him whatever if he had just asked.
Asked. Yeah.
Andy wrote a book called Just Ask, man. And so he's from the UK as well. He's an awesome dude. Definitely get him on your podcast. So Darren Brunton, Andy Lopata.
Dion, I just took a couple of pictures before I forgot. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm hoping this is the beginning of a long life friendship because I just, you won't even remember this, but I wrote something a year ago on my daughter where she went from being the best player on the team to the worst player on the team. And you wrote a comment. I was trying to find it earlier. I couldn't find it. But it was a very powerful, insightful comment, and it struck a chord with me. Mate, you're an inspiration to me. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to raising a couple of glasses with you when you're next in Singapore or when I come and see you in New Zealand.
I can't wait for you to run the Quintessential Leadership Summit in Singapore, where you invite the guests from your podcast to run a physical event and coaching session.
Mate, that's on the books, and yeah, it's on the books, so you'll know about it soon enough. It's what's really interesting is up until last year, I was always invisible as a headhunter. You try to have a mystique about you. The reality is that most candidates can't publicly acknowledge that they know you. They don't want their bosses to know you. And then when I set up the career coaching business, I thought, I'll lean into this. And what's been interesting is because this is a passion project of mine. I mean, I've had a lot of people say to me, "Do you monetize this? Are you doing this?" And I always stop people. I just say, "Look, you're misunderstanding the point." And people have asked me, "Well, what are your goals? Have you sat down and thought about this?" And to be frank, those things annoy me because I didn't wake up, spend 20 grand on all the equipment, and go and do this without thinking about it. But well, you know what I mean. But what it's been able to help me do, and I'm trying to do this now, is I'm trying to give back, and that's exactly what you do. And as someone that has suffered from mental, depression myself, you've personally helped me. So look, I want to say thank you, and this is just the first chat for sure. Dion, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, brother.
Oh, you're very welcome. And a gift from the Lion Academy to all your listeners. The Good News Trauma course, man, is free for any of your people, bro. Like, if anyone is listening to this, you can have it. There's never any charge for that, man. Like,
We'll, we'll
all the dark, scary stuff that no one will talk to you about, it's all in
yeah,
that course, man.
we will
We'll have
put
it.
everything in the links, brother. All right. So look, thanks, Dion. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome.